Good afternoon, everybody. Hello and welcome to your favorite podcast, Spectacular. I am your co-host, Tom Bates.
Jordan Sherman over here, and we are coming to you live in the afternoon.
That's right. This time, we slept in. Just kidding. No, we're taking care of a bunch of administrative work, hence the expensive technological apparatuses. We're uploading things to YouTube. We are tweeting. We are Facebooking. God, I sound like an old lady that just discovered social media.
We found a way to post pictures that you could find and share with your family.
You know what we should do? Fuck it. We're going to make a MySpace. Bring it back. We should. Bringing it back. Tom from MySpace, shout out. He's also a big fan of the show, big listener.
Yep.
And actually, he's one of the guys that gave us one of our main topics today, which if you would like to go into the first topic that Tom from MySpace gave us.
Tom from MySpace suggested that we talk about when you're making decisions in your career. Some are immediately financially beneficial.
Right.
And some are long-term, maybe not even financially beneficial, but better for extending your network or working on a particular skill or just becoming better at what you do and just advancing your career, right?
Yes.
And they don't always go hand in hand. In fact, most of the time when you're starting, they don't at all, you know?
No, absolutely not. It's a process of trial and error for a little idea I like to call tactical sacrifice.
That's a patent pending is what I was going to copyright that right there.
Yeah. Copyright Hollywood Hustle. Tom Bates, the first.
So stuff comes up where there's an opportunity to work with somebody, make a track, play a show, do an interview, all kinds of things, and they don't pay because the platform isn't big. It's another person who's at your level, because that's how it works for the most part. We all are gravitating with each other. It's not.
Right.
It's not like fucking. I'm not going to get interviewed by Joe Rogan tomorrow. You know, maybe.
Presumably.
Yeah.
We'll see how this podcast goes first. We got some spicy topics.
So, but even doing that show, that doesn't. People don't get paid to do that either. But it's obviously a very good financial decision to be on that.
Right.
But stuff could come up where like, well, actually, I have another engagement, a speaking engagement that I'm going to get $10,000 for, so I can't do Joe Rogan. Which would be the better choice, probably.
Right. No, that's you got to weigh it out, right? I mean, it's like they don't pay for people to perform at the Super Bowl because of the exposure you get and the way your career will continue to take off if you play the Super Bowl, right? It's to the point where even Justin Timberlake, who's at the top preeminent level of his line of work in entertainment, he'll play the Super Bowl for free because it'll take him even a step further. He'll reach all those people and, that he otherwise, I guess, wouldn't be able to reach with all the marketing that's jammed down everybody's throat.
Right?
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, we don't pay people to be on the Hollywood Hustle for that exact same reason. Is that the amount of people you reach? Yeah, well, you know what? It's not the exposure. It's the people, you guys, that you'll reach. Quality people, the best, high energy.
Just smart and funny.
Yeah.
And all the good things.
Informed. Yeah.
Thanks to us.
That's right. We're keeping you up to date, baby. Yeah, cool.
So that's just something that, because I know, even for myself, because I work as a musician, but in a professional type of world where there is some immediate financial benefits, but you could easily do that for 10 years and never progress.
Right. And a lot of people get caught up in that.
Yeah. So instead of, I don't know how many times I have to sacrifice making money to do something that is of more interest to me or of potential long-term value. So you have to weigh it out, and you need money, and especially living here, you have to make fucking money.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where I would advise people to really at least think about it. Don't knee-jerk take the money every time. Try your best to see, do you really need that money in this particular instance? Could you make it if you didn't do it? And weigh out how much potential value is there in the other option that you have presented to you.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to do an internal deliberation. What you said is in this instance, and that's why it's tactical. You have to weigh out all your options, do your cost benefit analysis, and if it ends up in the black, you do it, right? And like we were saying before the show during prep, yeah, we do prep. I was saying that I wouldn't take time off work to go do a student thesis film at USC, and not because it's not paid, just because it's not really going to get submitted to any film festivals or anything. You're not really going to advance yourself out of that. You'll get real footage, which is expensive, but it fails cost benefit analysis. But if I'm doing a pilot for a show that's being pitched, and I don't even care who it's being pitched to, if it's being pitched, because you never know where these things could go, right? Mind you, Star Wars was considered to be a failure before it even started filming. Right. And there are tons and tons and tons of pictures like that. Everything Kevin Smith did, with Clerks and stuff like that, none of it was expected to be successful. Right. But you could still see at that point that's worth taking time off work or not going to the beach that day or whatever. I mean, I'll never miss a lift, though. I'll never not go to the gym.
Well, there's always room. You can always make room for that.
You can always make room for that, but especially when you've got sleeveless Tuesdays, as you can see, Jordan. I'm glad you got that email I sent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you hadn't replied, so I was going to send a courier. I was going to send a bicycle courier to knock on your door and say, sleeveless Tuesdays, and then do a little dance and bike away off into the sunset. But you got the email. So yeah, but back to the tactical aspect of this, you have to weigh out your options. And I think that transcends even entertainment. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, which is essentially what this is at the base, you must take those into account and you must choose wisely. And that really separates the men from the boys. I mean, are you risk averse? And me, I mean, I'll be honest. I'm not. I like the comfort. I like knowing where my next dollar is coming from. I like where I live. And to put that on the line, it better fucking be worth it.
Yeah.
And I come across things all the time that are, and I do them, and yeah, I don't want to get caught up in just kind of being at the bottom, making that sacrifice.
Yeah, dude, it's a really tough thing to balance and to figure out exactly when those opportunities are best, because even like with that student film thing that you're talking about, although it's not going to do much on its own, you don't know, maybe the person who's behind directing it in 2 or 3 years becomes in a position where they are directing a feature and they know you and they like you, and it could turn into something eventually also. Not that you should take off work for it, but if you were already planning on going and then you get a call saying, I need to go to work, would you, that's a little bit different too, because you already scheduled it. That's kind of a different. Every situation is different,
nuanced.
Yeah,
absolutely. And you got to think at some point Steven Spielberg was doing student films, right? Anybody who's a major feature film motion picture producer in Hollywood was doing student films, was doing low budget things, and I'm not knocking those people at all. You definitely got to start somewhere, and we need more people making films, but as far as taking a financial hit and making that sacrifice, you have to understand, is the juice worth the squeeze? Does it make sense in the long run? And if I'm off, if I have a day off, damn right I'm doing that. Absolutely. I mean, I would definitely do that. And in this podcast, I make my schedule around this podcast now because be happy to inform you, we've got listeners. We're cross-continental now, baby. Tell them what you told me. Tell them what you told me.
Well, turns out we have a couple listeners in New Zealand.
Kiwis, baby.
Yeah. So, because on the podcast app and the way that I upload everything, we have all our metrics and everything. And thank you so much to everybody for downloading. And it's kind of shocking, actually, how many downloads we're getting, considering how little we promote. And also, this is the easiest thing that I do. Playing shows, making music, it's easy in its own way, but it requires a lot of, for shows especially, prep, rehearsal, getting the gear there, heavy things, smoke, lights, long nights, whiskey.
The makeup. All the makeup you wear.
Yeah, my fingernails, everything.
Yep.
This is we just talk for an hour, and the fact that it's getting downloads all over the world is pretty fucking wild.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is not. You weren't downplaying, but it is more than talking, because especially now we're doing prep. I would classify this program in the sector of infotainment. right? The cross section between the dissemination of information, the most valuable information,
Very, very valuable.
and entertainment. And dare I say, the best entertainment.
The best.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know it. So yeah, I mean, and I love this podcast, and we just started doing it kind of as a, just a thing to shoot the shit, basically recording our conversations and
Yeah.
force feeding it on people via Facebook post. But now it's actually got, people that are tuning into it, and people that have sent me suggestions for topics to discuss and things like that, because people value our insight on various discussions. So yeah, I mean, this is, in my life, it's the easiest thing I do too, because now it's become a labor. I mean, we're uploading videos to YouTube and, and things like that, and creating all the social media accounts and the website and everything that comes with that, the promotional aspect, the social media and everything, which is some labor. I mean, I'd much rather be hanging out and writing some songs and doing things like that. But I like this, and this is the necessary steps it takes to push this and get it further and reach more people. Because as much as I joke about us being the best there ever was and there ever will be, we really don't think that. I just want to reach as many people as possible, because we got something valuable to say.
And yeah, and it's really fun. And whenever I listen back to any episodes, I'm thoroughly entertained. Like generally the conversations are pretty interesting and it's funny.
Oh, yeah.
But also I hear all my verbal tics and all the stupid shit that I say when I'm running out of things to say, or when I'm like coming to the end of a thought and I'm trying to piece it together and I'm sounding like a borderline autistic. I'm like, and I just did it. And all those little things. And those are never going to be completely mitigated, but hearing yourself talk for an hour, just shooting the shit and hearing the way you actually convey your ideas is insanely valuable.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And we do a good job of keeping things moving and keeping the topics going. But back to what we were originally discussing with sacrificing and tactically planning your life around this pursuit, which oftentimes is not paying at the beginning. I think a lot of people in Hollywood and LA, they get caught up going for the paying gig, always going for the paying gig. And that's not how it works out, because you have to think of yourself like a business. The average business in the United States doesn't make a profit for X number of years, usually 2 to 3 years. And that's a good business. It's a damn good business, right? And as an actor, as a musician, as an individual enterprise, you have to understand that it's not about the money. Not right off the bat. And the people that understand that are the people that can weather the storm, because there's a lot of rejection. And with that, you have to understand that I'm not in it for the glitz, the glam, and the money. That will come, and frankly, a lot of that's out of your hands. That's the decisions of other people, of gatekeepers, right? Of standard bearers in an industry that call shots. And that's not either one of us yet. But it eventually will be. So with that, it's doing things essentially pro bono to work and get exposure, to get the skills necessary to get to that point where people will gladly pay you to do what it is that you do.
Yeah, 100%. And it can hit your pride, especially if you have gotten paid in a different city or something. And I know that happens to a lot of musicians and people who do well in certain towns and areas, and then they move here, and it's like it's a different world. It takes a lot of pro bono and meeting people and finding the people who do pay, finding the venues that do pay, finding different avenues to make your money. And what's interesting and why so many artists do like what you do or something in that industry, serving or working in food or beverage or whatever, is it does give you some freedom. Mm-hmm. And it also doesn't burn you out from the creative endeavors, where a lot of people I know who are professional musicians, when it comes time to create, or if there's downtime or a night off, the last thing they want to do is something musical, because you do it every fucking day.
Yeah.
But you're not doing things that are actually pushing your career forward. So you got to be really careful if you actually do make money doing what you do, to still put in the extra effort for those creative endeavors, for those longer nights, those days where you feel like you need that extra rest, but you need to put the time in. Otherwise, you will make the same amount that you've always made, or maybe a little bit more incrementally. But considering inflation and just cost of living and gas and shit, you need to try to find ways to really grow yourself, grow your business, grow your career, and not just asking for a couple more bucks every time you play out or something.
Yeah, and those people, they don't last long here, and they usually don't last long in the industry. If they do hit, there'll be a flash in the pan. Yeah, and I think this is all in regards to the real artists. This is a part of their path towards self-actualization, towards reaching the pinnacle of who it is that they could be as an individual. And art is a medium for that. Art is an impetus for that. And I think both of us really understand that. I mean, I really don't. I mean, I would love to be rich, no doubt. I have a thing, an unhealthy obsession for collecting Aston Martins. I currently have 0, and I'm looking to get to more than that. But, you know, I love things like that. I like luxury, but I feel like once you reach that, that's a lot of people's downfall. Because with that, it's like, okay, you act in that movie or you released that hit record. Now you just made $10 million and you bought that house, you bought that car, and you have this certain lifestyle and certain travel plans, and you're jet setting, and you have a certain standard to uphold and keep, and that'll take a toll on you. And that's when they get you.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what Robert De Niro's doing now. I always wondered, I saw Robert De Niro growing up, being The Godfather, being in all these great movies. I don't know why all this litany of great movies are escaping me right now. Raging Bull.
Taxi Driver.
What's that one they filmed in Hollywood, Florida? I actually did a scene from that in class where he was like this serial killer or something like that. Cape Fear. Right? He did all these great movies throughout his career. An amazing career. And then I see around like 2010s, he's doing Dirty Grandpa. He's doing Meet the Fockers 9. And I'm like, what the hell? Dude, you were in The Godfather. You played Vito Corleone, the most iconic movie character of all time. And it's like, you're doing these movies now. And I realized it's because he has this standard of living he has to upkeep, and his wife cleaned him out in a divorce. And I didn't know about that until I read an article in the New York Post where he was forcibly removed from a New York City bar because he was yelling at his wife that the alimony payments are the reason he has to do all these shitty movies. And I believe that's a verbatim quote. He said shitty movies.
Yeah.
So it's like, you don't want to get caught up in that, right? Just live below your means. That's the way to go, because if the shit hits the fan, or you're out of work, or for God forbid you get blacklisted or something, you can still survive.
Yeah, and that's just a shitty game to want to try to win, because there's always more things, better things, people who have more better things. It's not fulfillment. And if that's your goal for everything, you're kind of fucked. And we talked about De Niro before on one of these past episodes. And the same thing I asked you was like, in that episode, I was like, why does he have to do these shitty movies, in that he could still do good movies and get paid? He's still a good actor.
Yeah. One of the best of all time.
So we were trying to figure that out on a few weeks back. And I don't remember, we actually didn't come to a conclusion. It was open-ended. It was like, well, we assumed that he could do good movies still, but for whatever reason, everything that's being thrown at him is pretty mediocre. And then my question to you was, I was like, maybe he's like low-key Me Too'd or something like that.
I don't know about that. That's a little bit speculative for me to draw a conclusion upon. But my theory is that these shitty movies, those are the ones that get the budget because people like shitty movies. There's the economy of Hollywood. It's been working for a long time, but there's been a shift where I think if The Godfather came out now, who knows if it would even hit theaters, or it would be in theaters for 2 weeks and out. But then Transformers 17 is in theaters for 6 months with a Christmas or Thanksgiving release. Or it's the movie of the summer or something like that. And not to say there aren't really good big budget movies. I mean, word to Jurassic Park coming out. Chris Pratt, big fan of the show. We're a big fan of you. We'll have you on. We'll get to you. I'm a little bit busy. But anyway, that's my theory on that, is that that's where the money's at.
Yeah,
and that's why he's doing it.
And it has to be bland in a certain regard, where when you spend all that much money, you have to adhere to the formula to guarantee a certain number of sales. You're not banking on making history. You don't give a fuck about getting a certain story out there. You have this formula of narratives, especially superhero shit, that always works. And it's branded for franchising and for all the other merchandise that you can sell.
I was just going to say merchandising.
Yeah.
Because it's the periphery, right? The butterfly effect of a movie.
Yeah.
And that's what they're trying to do, because at the top of this are business people, and very few of them, excuse my language, give a flying fuck about the art. They don't care. They don't even understand what art is. They don't care about it. And very few people at that level do. Not to say they don't exist, but they're a small minority. And these people care about, all right, we're going to get this big name actor. There's actually a list. There's a metric. They found a formula, and it's the type of stars. They take mega stars, and they can tell you exactly how much money they're going to make in a motion picture off these stars. Your Tom Cruise, your Leonardo DiCaprio, your Tom Hanks, guys of that
selling
ilk.
power. Yeah,
right, exactly, and they can negotiate these huge contracts. It's like there's a major league statistics these guys came up with. It's called wins above replacement, which they use to negotiate contracts. And essentially what that statistic is when this certain player is not in the game, how often do they win versus when they are in the game. And they can negotiate a contract. Brilliant statistic these geeks came up with to get these already overpaid athletes much more money than they deserve, right? That's a whole nother topic we can go on another podcast, is the exorbitant salaries that professional athletes receive, while school teachers that are educating the general populace can't even afford to keep the lights on in their one-room apartment. So anyway, that's my theory. And Hollywood it's a very interesting economy, right? Because motion pictures have been huge cash cows since the silent film era. But I feel like we're kind of on the downswing of movies and more towards series, because with the prevalence, the proliferation of small studios and everything being affordable, and with all these streaming services, that's the way to go now. And you see it with the likes of megastars like Brad Pitt doing Netflix series, right?
Yep.
Yeah. But not to say that people still don't love going to the theater and going to see something like Jurassic Park, which they didn't sponsor this show. I get really excited for that. I loved that movie as a kid. I like the dinosaurs.
Well, it's true though. I mean, those types of movies are going to be better to see in theater too. Like,
yeah,
you don't to go see just great acting over a great story. You might as well just do that at home anyway, right?
Yeah, in the comfort of your own home, absolutely.
And series can tell stories way better than a movie can.
Yes, they have much more leeway, obviously.
Yeah.
More time, you get more development with the character and the plot.
So the reason to go to the theater is for the surround sound, to actually feel the intensity of whatever scene is going on. So action films are always really popular. Anything with crazy animation, like Jurassic Park's the perfect example, right?
Or The Incredibles that just came out. Have you seen how good those geeks over at DreamWorks are with the CGI and being able to animate that? So I saw this picture on the internet, and it had him, the dad, wearing a polo shirt. And they had the fine imprints of the fabric of the polo shirt. And like on a shirt, you can see how there's little tiny cotton fibers that come up from the fabric itself. They had that. Unbelievable. Shout out to those guys. You geeks do a good job.
All the rendering, like the countless, that just goes to show you how intense computing power has become over time, because
In such a short period.
Yeah.
Yeah, because remember, 12 years ago, we were doing dial-up AOL to I am that girl from class.
it's
You know what I'm saying?
insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had Juno email service at the very beginning.
Wow.
It was like 11 or 12, and I was sending emails, and it was hot.
Yeah, you were sending your nudie pics via Juno email service.
Oh, you could not send a photo if you fucking dreamed about it. That would take 3 days.
It was still like green screen, just zeros and ones.
You could just send like the most basic text that you couldn't even format or change the type. It was just boom, that's it. Send it off.
And growing up when we did, and when the majority of our audience did, to see how quickly technology went from desktop, big bulky computers and dial-up internet, which at the time was unbelievably advanced, and to MacBook that weighs 2 pounds that can stream videos 10 times at once. And I mean, we uploaded 2 episodes of the Hollywood podcast in like under 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That's 2 hours of content, of footage. And I mean, to render these beautiful, sharp facial features and everything, and the sounds of our voice perfectly, they did that in record time. So yeah, unbelievable.
Really impressive. And yeah, it's just, I got a question for you.
Hit me.
Why are we so obsessed with innovation?
I think that is completely congruent with the human spirit. It's progress. And the answer why we're so obsessed with innovation is the same answer of why communism doesn't work. It's because it is a fabric of human nature to want to strive, to want to make something better, to want to increase productivity or make things more efficient. And that we've created an entire corporate apparatus, global corporate apparatus, to foster that. And I think that's part of the human spirit and the human will.
Do you think that we're gonna create the next species that we have to live in symbiosis with, that will be like the next human will be, but it'll be a fake, not, it'll be a robot human? I'm sorry, I've been watching Westworld, so I'm
I can tell.
a little fucked up. But my question is just like, you everything you pointed out is accurate, but there's got to be like there's an underlying reason, and we're trying to build this like next thing. It seems like the next pillar of what it is to be a human.
I don't think we're going to create necessarily an AI species a la that movie with Will Smith, AI. I mean, no, I don't think we're going to get a robot takeover if that's what you're asking. It's already happened if we were going to do. I mean, like take away any of our devices and everything and people wouldn't know what to do.
Be pretty fucked.
Yeah, aside from those few people that go camping as a hobby, we're all screwed. Yeah. But anyway, what are your thoughts on that? You raised the question.
Yeah, well,
hit me with the response.
It seems as though there's just some type of fascination with it, in that we will build something that will change us physically at some point because of the way we have to interact with it, or just over time, like staring at little screens. Like something's going to happen in our brain or to our body that's going to be like a quicker evolution than, it's not going to take millions of years. It'll take like hundreds of years or thousands of years. You know what I'm saying?
It could happen. There's this band you got to check out. And they made this animated music video that's pretty much exactly that. Like, people are so into their phones and that the phones end up ruling over them.
I think I've seen that video before.
Dude, it's a sick video. The band's great. I don't know how I feel about the front man, but I like his podcast. I don't know. Give yourself a quick shout out. The music video is phenomenal. When you showed me that, I was pretty blown away. That's great, and the social context of it is very relevant. Super cool.
Yeti Tactics, Christoph, But yeah, so that's just the way it actually has hijacked our minds, right?
And it definitely has.
Yeah. But I'm just wondering what type of like actual physical changes it's going to make over time.
I can't say. I don't know if there are going to be any actual physical changes, but we've already combined robotics in the human body. Yep. And then you got things like stem cells. You have things like artificial insemination. You have things like artificial wombs that are happening.
Sexy.
I think the opposite. I am quite turned off by that concept, especially the picture. You ever seen the sheep in that plasmic placenta, artificial placenta thing? It's very weird looking, but whatever. I mean, hopefully it can help us live forever and colonize Mars, which is why I'm running for mayor of the first Mars city once it comes up. Just for the press, just for our podcast. We're also going to be the first podcast on Mars. Quote me on it.
Yep.
All right. So little quick segue, little quick shift in gears here. We've got some big international political happenings here. Hashtag Trump Kim Summit.
Oh, shit.
So, what's going on here? Quick synopsis. So, Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump decided to meet in Singapore, neutral territory, to discuss the international relations between the giant United States and North Korea. Now, for those of you that don't know, the Korean War is technically still going on. It's been going on for over 70 years between North and South Korea, and the United States effectively lost the Korean War in the 50s. And everyone knows about Kim Jong-un. Everyone knows about North Korea being a thorn in the side of international diplomacy, and all the talk between that little rocket man and him saying, screw you, Trump, we're going to blow up San Fran or whatever. But it's looking like Kim Jong-un is going to start very quickly dismantling their nuclear programs. They've got a couple hydrogen bombs. Looks like they're going to get rid of those too. They're going to stop putting any kind of propaganda across the border in South Korea and vice versa. So it's kind of a two-way street and everyone's coming together. What the international community is saying is that this has been a huge success. And that being said, I don't think any other president could have done it. Otherwise, I think they would have. I mean, it's been going on for 70 years. I think if any other president would have taken care of that, if they could have taken care of that, they would have. So this is a huge political happening, and something that I think everyone should be informed about and the implications of it. And I think it's a good deal. And now my speculation is that this whole thing was not a direct result of any negotiations that happened in Singapore, but a visit from Mike Pompeo to China a few months back, where he essentially, what they're saying is, he essentially said, look, we want to be diplomatic with North Korea, but we will not hesitate to turn Pyongyang into a parking lot via nuclear bomb. So we're trying to do this the right way. And look, if you're one of those people in world peace, which here at the Hollywood Hustle, we endorse very few things, but one of the things we do endorse is world peace. We dig it. It's cool. So this is a huge step towards that, because it's another dictatorship regime that's going to, take the brakes off the despotism and authoritarianism. So I think it's a plus. We like it. Good on you, Donald Trump. And we're not parading for him or anything. When he does good, give him credit. When he doesn't, we'll rip him for it. What are your thoughts, Jordan?
It's all stuff that he said he's going to do in terms of Kim Jong-un. So, I mean, he could just be like, oh, the whole world thinks I'm getting rid of my nuclear weapons. And he's going home and he's rubbing them with all his fancy cloths. He's like, oh, yeah, I love you, Rocket. I love you, Rocket. Come to Daddy Island. You got a great rocket. But you know what I'm saying? Like, the hope would be that he's coming from a genuine place with this. And it is in his best interest to do that, because he has been threatened by way more powerful powers that be, including the U.S. And I think that's why you're saying that Trump was capable of this, where a lot of other presidents was because he's straight up, he's that wild card. Pushing the big red button doesn't seem like that big of a stretch for a guy like Trump, right?
Right. And then it goes to say that the way that diplomacy is handled in the Far East is different than it is in the Western world or the Anglosphere. And this is something that we discussed in prep for this show. So in the Western world, diplomacy is all negotiation, compromise. You do this, quid pro quo, right? Now in the East, it's all about respect. It's all about body language. It's about the stance you take and how you're able to negotiate. And then it's about respect. So Kim Jong-un respects Donald Trump because he sees him as a strong man. And that's why there was that positioning beforehand where they called the meeting and then Donald Trump called it off after Kim Jong-un insulted Mike Pence over some petty bullshit. And then they called it back on. Now that move was a tactical political move in order to posture himself for these negotiations. Yeah. And that got respect out of Kim Jong-un. And it seems counterintuitive to us Westerners here, but that is the way that diplomacy is conducted in the East.
Yeah. And aside from just like the factual things that seem to have happened in this summit, which seems to be overall huge net positive.
Yes.
The takes and the perspectives of the different media outlets is always interesting to me because you know exactly how it's going to turn out. And what bugs me is like, if you're Trump in this situation, you can't really win because,
right.
Especially, I mean, and it is difficult because the guy is a fucking war criminal who oppresses his own people who are starving to death while he parades around and he kills his own family members for status. Like he's not a good guy. So Trump kind of, in the way he talked about him, kind of glorified his talents and his ability as a ruler, which is kind of fucked up to say because it's not true. I mean, he's a shitty ruler.
Yeah, and that got a lot of backlash from the media,
Yeah.
especially the media on the left end of the spectrum, that if Donald Trump cured cancer, they would say that he is creating overpopulation or
Yeah.
something like.
So, and I get it that he has to say those types of things to try to get to work with this guy. He seems to know the art of that, right? But it just sucks that you can't, if you're him, you really can't win. And also, just the fucking response to all this, like, how dare you make a deal with a war criminal? It's like, what else are you supposed to do? Do you want this to just keep going on and on and on forever?
Exactly. It has to end at some point. And I don't think Donald Trump is unaware of any of the injustices or persecution that's gone on in North Korea, right? I mean, they're malnourished.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, the people have zero freedoms. Everything is watched over the state. I mean, it is a 1984 police state.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. But this step in diplomacy can be the first step in getting away from that and creating a country more like South Korea. And I mean,
and maybe whoever the successor is of Kim Jong-un, maybe that person is just slightly less fucked up,
Yeah, exactly. It's a process. And that's what people don't understand in our society of instant gratification. It's like they're not going to have a democratic election tomorrow and start, blaring Kanye West from speakers and opening up McDonald's on every corner. Like, it's not going to turn into America. And you see what happens when they try to do that in countries. We saw that in the Middle East all through our lifetime.
Horrible idea.
Yeah, exactly. Bad idea. So I think this is a step in the right direction. And I think he takes everything into account. And we got to understand, the United States has all the leverage here.
Yeah, and that's what's so crazy about this is the fact that this guy hasn't been scared out of getting rid of his nukes for all this time.
Yeah, I mean, say what you want about him. He's got balls.
Yeah.
He's got balls. I mean, you could take they call it the football, which is the codes for the nuclear missiles and everything in the United States and all the bombs and everything. And with that, Pyongyang, North Korea, as far as we know, could be wiped off the face of the earth in less than 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah, easy.
Yeah. One simple decision, less than 30 minutes.
Without much backlash from the rest of the world.
Yeah. And that's hypothetically. And the fact that is one step closer to not happening is a net positive.
Yep.
But you're not, and that's why, listeners, you got to watch the media. You got to watch what they're saying. And again, as I told you, like, we want to make it clear, we're never going to tell you how to think. I don't want to tell you how to think. I just want to present the facts as I see them, trying just as a truth seeker, trying to give you the straight dope, no spin. This is what's going on, and draw your own conclusions by seeking out other information from both sides and making an informed decision. That's what we're all about on the Hollywood Hustle here. Again, we're here to disseminate information, not to tell you how to think. So, yeah, I think that's a plus. And here's the whole irony and just the craziness of it was this was all essentially started by Dennis Rodman.
Yep.
Yes, the basketball player with the green hair.
Who I've met.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he offered my mother a cigarette outside of a bar in Fort Lauderdale once.
He's everywhere. If there's a party, Dennis Rodman will find it, and he will make sure that everybody's getting drinks and having a good time, because that dude is a walking party, man.
Yeah, and that's how he ended up in North Korea. He was like, man, I've partied everywhere in the United States, everywhere all over the world. Where haven't I been? Shit.
North Korea, baby.
Yeah, and they love basketball. So he just moseyed on in there, dribbled on in there. And so an interesting story that Dennis Rodman told on CNN. This will be the last thing about the North Korea thing because I don't want people to get tired of it here. But this is pretty interesting. So I watched this interview of Dennis Rodman on CNN, and he talked about one of his first interactions with Kim Jong-un. And he said that it was Kim Jong-un's birthday coming up in a few days. And he's like, Kim, I'm going to get you a birthday present. And he's like, all right, what are you going to get me? He's like, I'm going to bring you a basketball team. And Kim Jong-un is like, sure, whatever. So Dennis Rodman finds a way, brings him a basketball team. And they love basketball in North Korea. And Kim Jong-un said to him, and this is pretty poignant, and it shows their side of the coin, because no one ever hears North Korea's side of the story. Kim Jong-un goes, that's the first time anyone has kept a promise to me or my nation. Right? And so, again, not condoning or glorifying anything that they have done that's negative or despotic, any of that nonsense. But no one ever sees their side of the story because everyone's too busy pursuing a narrative. So that's why we just encourage you, take both sides into account and try to make an informed decision. Again, because you're our audience, the smartest audience, the best audience, and now the most informed audience.
Exactly. And it's kind of funny too, because how many promises have countries and leaders made about blowing them off the face of the earth? And those promises haven't been kept either.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's a good thing.
Yeah.
When you take that into account. So that's good. Again, I mean, it's one step closer to world peace. Of course, Donald Trump is going to get snubbed out of a Pulitzer Peace Prize, or sorry, Nobel Peace Prize. He's not doing any literary works.
He's a fantastic writer.
Well, he already won the Pulitzer Prize for the art of the deal.
The best. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, he's not going to win a Nobel Peace Prize for this because the international community is hell bent on hating him regardless of what he does. And that should be a signal to anybody listening that maybe they're a little bit biased. I think maybe they don't like him for some kind of reason.
Just a little bit. And there's plenty of things to not like him for too.
Like, how about his interaction with Justin Trudeau? How do you think that went? Could you tell me?
I don't know. Maybe it started with like, Justin, you're a huge pussy.
Donald, you don't need to put taxes on us like one of your biggest trade partners.
You need me more than I need you, Justin. So all these tariffs, it's a good deal for America.
Donald, we had at the G7, we had a breakfast, and me and Angela Merkel and all the other world leaders were there, and you showed up late. And to tell you the truth, we didn't even miss you. And quite frankly, you weren't invited. Okay?
I don't want to be there anyway.
Yes, you do.
I'd rather be at home with Melania.
She's so gross.
And Stormy together. And playing golf at the same time while they both suck my dick.
Well, Donald, you're not going to get any Canadian milk, and next time you want to come to Canada, we're making you stay in Saskatchewan.
I don't drink milk. I drink Coca-Cola only.
Anyway, so that's our Justin Trudeau, and obviously Donald Trump done again by the great Jordan Sherman. I'll continue to work on my Trudeau. That was I threw it out there because of the situation that went on this past week at G7. It was very important for our intellectual take on their interaction between our two great nations of the United States and Canada.
I think that's exactly how it would have went.
It's probably how it went.
Yeah.
Very little variation from that reenactment, if you will.
I've been told that my Trump is like, it's a drunk Trump.
Nice.
Because it's a little bit more.
It's like.
Yeah, and the irony is he doesn't drink.
No.
Yeah, his vice is obviously women.
And speed.
Speed?
You should look it up. I'll share some stuff with you. But he's,
Let's see what Google says.
a long time ago, he was prescribed diet pills to lose weight. And he actually got hooked on them because it's effectively speed.
Oh, yeah. Rumor, doctor prescribes Donald Trump cheap speed.
So, but there's
rumor.
actual
Gawker.
there's actual evidence of the initial prescription from years and years ago, but there's suspicions that he still is taking them. And it would make sense. I mean, he's old as fuck, and he's like going, dude. He's going pretty strong.
You know, I have this thing I do where I look up anything on the internet, and then I'll go to Google Images.
Oh my God.
That's fucking
A
awesome.
Speedhead. Look at that.
I hope you guys can see that there, what he looks like. Maybe not. Anyway, no, these kids on the internet, they can make a GIF or a meme out of everything. It is awesome.
Give me more speed.
No, I doubt Donald Trump's doing speed. He doesn't, I don't know. He doesn't seem like that kind of fella. But anyway, so what else we got?
Oh, I don't know. Actually, I want to give a quick shout out to, there's this artist called Dukes. This guy, Jonah McLean. I met him through some other musician friends of mine. He's a good friend of Triple D's. And he's been releasing an album, one track at a time, only via email. Like, you had to subscribe to it, and he gives a little video on the background of the song, and then you can download both the instrumental version and the actual version. And the album is incredible. Check him out, Dukes. I'm like, every day I can't wait for the next email to come in so I can listen to the next track on the album. It's a really cool way to release the music. It's way more engaging. It keeps you on your toes, and I feel way more connected to it than if he had just put it out. And it's really, really high quality stuff. I'm blown away.
Nice. And I can riff off that for a minute. So as creative as you must be as an artist today to stand out, you must be just as creative, if not more, in your marketing strategy if you're independent and doing it yourself, right? Which, when you make that big check, the first thing that I would invest in is a marketing company and a publicist.
Yep.
That's the name of the game. Get your face out there, get your music out there, get your name out there as much as you can. And that's how really anybody blows up, right? I mean, you can be an awesome artist. Like, how many phenomenal artists are there that nobody knows about? And it's because they don't have any publicity, they don't have any beat on the street. So, no, that's huge. And that's very creative. I've never heard of anybody doing that. It almost seems archaic, like getting it via email, but it's almost like I put it akin to like a bar in New York City with no name, where you got to get the slip that has the code word and stuff like that, and it creates a buzz. So you might not get a gazillion people, but you'll get 100 people that are into it and will go see you play live. And then when you release an album for sale on iTunes, they will purchase it.
Yep.
Right.
So I'm excited to see how it does once it's released to the public. But it's really high quality music, man.
Nice. What genre?
He calls it alien funk.
Shit.
Yeah.
I've never even heard of that.
Yeah.
That's great.
The guy's a super creative dude and just extremely talented. Check him out. That's all I'm saying. Dukes.
I like that.
Dux.
Yeah. Nice. I would have mispronounced that.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. No worries. No, that's cool. Very good.
But what else is on the docket, though? We had a couple things lined up that are escaping me at the moment.
Yeah, no worries. It happens. Let's riff. Tell me about that. So you're in the midst of a really good piece of literature.
Oh, yeah. So I just started a new book like a couple days ago called The Botany of Desire by Michael Pollan. And it's about the symbiotic relationship between plants and humans and how we've furthered each other's evolution and spread and well-being. And how there are a multitude of plants that seem to only exist for our betterment because they wouldn't exist if we weren't responsible for continuing their evolution and their population growth.
Right, and that's the thing that people in first world countries do is when the specific type of oak tree is going extinct, they'll cultivate it, they'll protect it, anything like that. Or we see it a lot where we're from in Florida with sea turtles and the caution tape around where they lay their eggs because they're an endangered species and trying to bring the populace back up. That's pretty cool. Just a quick bance I have along the lines with that book. It's funny you bring that up because earlier this week I was thinking it's a good thing there aren't more and bigger Venus flytraps. We'd be in a lot of trouble. I would not want to be inside the jaws of one of those things.
Get your dick stuck in one.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Yeah, terrible.
No, but so it's interesting because he talks about these human desires that we expect out of plants, or the plants that we value the most, will give us any one of these four desires. So the first is sweetness. And for a long time, if you were to find natural fruits in the actual fucking forest, they weren't really sweet.
Right. Tart.
Yeah, so we cultivated sweetness through particular plants, and one of the staples of sweetness is the apple. And so the whole first section of the book is about apple trees and Johnny Appleseed in the U.S.
Yeah. Shout out Johnny Appleseed, one of my favorite childhood folk heroes.
Yeah, but it's wild because I learned something else too, that certain settlements and different communities, you could tell how long people had been living there and if it was an established, successful community based on the number of full-grown apple trees that were there.
That's pretty fascinating. Yeah.
And also, any apple that we've eaten in our lives is not a real apple. That is a human creation based on wild apple seeds that is so many generations removed.
That's some Matrix shit, man.
Yeah, not even.
I've never eaten you've never eaten a real apple. Think about that.
Nope. So there's a few, like in different parts of the world, there are actual wild apple trees that still exist that produce seeds, and they keep getting closer to extinction. So like what you were saying, there's some people make it their lives work to go and make an orchard of wild apple trees. So this guy, Michael Pollan, went and got to walk this orchard and see all the different types of apples. And he said they can be like all twisted, like the fruit can look deformed and mangled and like dark brown. They can look like little cherries. Like the variation of wild apples is crazy. And he tried a bunch and they all taste like shit pretty much.
Huh. I'm a Honeycrisp kind of guy.
Ooh, those are good.
Yeah?
Those are good. I like Pink Lady.
Pink Lady.
Yeah.
Nice. Very
But
cool.
All just creations by humans. Pretty wild. So sweetness is like something that once we got the taste of it, we had to have more of it.
Nice. And just a quick aside, sponsoring today's show is the Apple Farmers Union of America. They do great work. Jim Jameson, thank you very much for your donation to the show. He didn't actually donate any money. We have 6 bushels of apples currently in your living room right now. So at least if you come back here and there are apples in your living room, that's
Sorry.
why.
Yeah.
So, they didn't have much money, so they just donated product, which we always appreciate. So, again, Apple Farmers Union of America. Thank you very much.
And then the second desire that we have in us that we expect out of plants is beauty. So the particular plant that he goes to pick apart is the tulip, which I'm only a little bit in. And he cites this whole economic collapse that surrounded the tulip because the value of the tulip outweighed the value of gold and other actual valuable things. And it was in somewhere in Europe in the 1600s. And it was like a huge problem because everybody was spending all their gold to get tulips because everybody just this fake inflation happened. And then everybody realized, oh, it's just a flower. And then everybody went broke.
So let me get this straight. Humanity went through the Enlightenment. And then immediately after that, we almost had a complete collapse
Over a flower.
because of the tulip.
Yep.
Riveting.
Yeah. So I'll be able to check back in with that as I get through it. And then the third desire is intoxication, which so many plants across the whole world have provided intoxication to humans. And it's a big part of our evolution. It's a big part of how we actually became humans because the effect that it has on us and the chemical reactions. So marijuana is the one that he's going to go into on that because that's
Right.
the most popular form of intoxication right now,
Yeah, and it's the pure plant because obviously alcohol, you've got plant-based.
Yeah, you don't have to change it at all.
Right. And then another interesting one I'm sure he might hit on would be the psychoactive effects of mushrooms, peyote and things like that.
Yeah. And then the fourth desire is control. So he's going to go into potatoes. And I still need to figure out what that correlation is, but I think it has to do with harvesting and creating actual communities that stay in one place and all live off of this one particular grain. So
I'm going to have to counter signal you on that. I think that the potato is controlled because of the potato gun. And so with the development of the
Step back.
potato gun, exactly, you could take over
I
an
got a
entire
potato.
village.
Yeah.
You could have a standing army of thousands with spears and shields and things like that, trained killers and warriors. You got 5 guys with a potato gun. See ya. You're done. You're
Yep.
done.
you
You're
get
sacked.
so bruised.
Yeah, it's going to be like Carthage, but just way worse. It's going to, oh my God. That's actually how Rome fell. Potato gun.
I believe it. But there is something about the agricultural revolution and the spread of disease and so many things that was the big shift in our lives back. I think they said it was like 10,000 years ago.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why so many people are Irish in the United States. Shout out Colin O'Connor and the Clan O'Connor.
Irish.
Yeah, the Irish.
Yeah. So, but it's fascinating, and people started living off of one food instead of this dozens of foods that they would forage and find and hunt and kill. It was like, no, you're going to eat potatoes every day for the rest of your life, and that's
Every
all
meal.
you eat. Yeah.
Every day. And they probably hadn't figured out the various ways you can make potatoes. Because I'm thinking about if someone forced me to eat French fries for every meal every day, obviously it's not the healthiest, but
it's tasty.
yeah, I could probably do that and not kill myself out of lack of variety. But they were probably just they probably didn't even cook it, just grabbed it out of the ground, just
Yep. But
ate it like an apple.
And then there's all this upkeep. So now that you are embedded in this society because you want to keep growing the field, which requires more farmers and more people who are going to skin them, et cetera, et cetera. So it creates an economy. And there's so much debate as to whether or not it's good. It obviously wasn't good for their health. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, it's probably why they drink so much.
But it's something that kind of created society, was the fact that we all would gather in a particular area and live off the same food source.
Yeah, well, you know what they say. There's more than one way to skin a potato. Huh? Yeah. But, I mean, that will segue nicely into a little segment that I started doing, but I want to do again, which is the Hollywood Hustle really bad lifting advice. So with this here exercise tip I'm going to give you, this is one I learned while playing Division I college baseball at the University of South Florida. So a lot of people take pre-workout, get that heart rate up, get that nice and flush, get things going. Yep. Get the vein into bicep.
Yep.
And did you know that eating 3 baked potatoes, skin and all, like you gotta eat them like an apple, the baked potatoes, will give you much more of a rush and a much more focused lift than just a little bit of pre-workout? Did you know that? And it's even better if it's in fry form. So go to McDonald's before your lift or before you run. It's the way to do it.
Great advice.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do that, although I already worked out today. But I think it works retrospectively, right?
It works retrospectively, and you can work out again. It'll instantly heal all the torn muscle fibers. It will flush all the lactic acid out of your body. And also, as an aside, the Hollywood Hustle legally does not endorse any of the advice given on this show. It is not to be taken seriously by any of the listeners. But if you don't do what we say, you're an idiot. So
choose wisely. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's probably a wrap for today.
I guess so. It's funny because we actually were hanging out before, so my sense of time is a little warped compared to usually I know exactly when the hour hits, but I think we're there, right?
We got to be there. Yeah. I have a clock right in front of me, but I'm never smart enough to be like, oh, we started at this time.
It's just too much fun.
But, we get lost in the act of the podcast. So anyway, signing off, just want to say thanks again to everybody for watching. If you dig it, tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your dog or your cat, and we'll get a lot more people hopping on this. And always a pleasure, man. Great job. And again, we're taking this shit seriously. So we're going to have more content up. We're going to have things on YouTube. We have a Twitter, the Facebook, all that social media presence. You can get at us 24/7. We will live in your home.
Yep. And make sure if you do listen to us on the podcast app, give us a rate, give us those stars. And leave a comment because that'll really help with our positioning on the podcast app. And again, thanks to everybody who's been downloading. It's been pretty cool to see all the metrics. So let's keep it going, and I'll see you soon, man.
Yep. We'll get at you guys later on in the week. Thank you again. Take care. Bye.